You are now about to start recording the shir. When you are finished, please hang up.
Welcome everyone as we learn Daf Vav, the second Daf of the evening, sponsored by Baruch Ian Nishmas Estebasyani, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKoyin, by Aaron Sved, Nishmas Chana Bas Shmuel, and for his sister Freda Bas Shol, and Neshama should have an Aliyah, by Shimon Deer for the Refuah Shalema of the Chayli Adaf and all Chayli Yisrael, by Mark Frankel, the Refuah Shalema for Miriam Sora Bas Tzipora, by Berich Goldwasser for Akaras HaToiv, for what Hashem did for his family, and for Refuah for all Chayli Yisrael. We learned from Aishvar, Vigdahaya ben Rivka, and for Mordechai ben Sari Yehudis, they should have a Refuah Shalem B'Sach Shachal Yisrael, and for Meir ben Chaya Sara should have a Refuah Shalem. But we are holding 3 lines from the top of Daf Vav Amid Aleph. Ton Rabbanan, Hariat Ishti, you are my wife. Hariat Arusasi, you are my betrothed. Hariat Knuyoli, you are acquired to me, Mikudeshes. Now here's another 3 terms that work. Hariat Shali, you are mine. Hariat Berishusi, you are in my domain. Hariat Zekukali, you are connected to me, Mikudeshes. So the Gemara says, since all 6 are effective, so why does it say Hariat Mikudeshes 2 times? V'lesninu kulu kechada. Why don't you teach them all as one teaching that all six are effective? So says the Gemara, Tana tlas sheminu. The Tana heard the 3 teachings at 2 separate times. So when he heard it first 3, he taught the 3, and then he heard another 3, and he taught the other 3 separately. Ibaylahu. Now the Gemara declares about certain terminology that's not so specific. Miyuchedesli, you're one to me, like v'hoyu l'basar echad. Mao. Miyuedesli, you are designated to me. Mao. Ezrasi Mao. If he says Ezrasi, right, like Ezer Kenegdo. Negdasi Mao, like Ezer Kenegdoi. Atsurasi Mao. What if he says you should be gathered into me? Tzelasi Mao. What if he says you should be my rib? Sugurasi Mao. What if he says you should be closed into me? Tachti Mao. Beneath me. Tfusasi Mao. Grabbed by me. Lekuchasi Mao. Taken by me. What's the din? So Gemara says one of these languages we could resolve. Pshoit miyachada. One we could resolve. The Tanya Omer lekuchasi. If he says you should be taken to me. Hari zumi kudeshes. Because that's the lashon of the pasuk. Pasuk mishum shenemer ki yikach ish isha. Ibayilu charufasi. What if he says, it says shifcha, he's a shifcha necherefes leish, a shifcha designated to a man. So what if he says charufasi, you should be designated to me? What's the din? Tajma, the Tanya Omer charufasi, if he says charufasi mekudeshes, shekain be Yehuda kairin la'arusa charufa, because in Yehuda they call an arusa charufa. So the Gemara says, is Yehuda the whole world? The Yehuda have a rubad alma? Says, no hachi kama, Omer charufasi mekudeshes, shenema, because we find that as an exclusive designation, v'hi shifcha necharefes leish. By Anoshim shifcha charufa, she's a maidservant designated for a man. V'oid, and furthermore, be Yehuda karin la'arusa charufa. In Yehuda they call an arusa charufa. If you could give me a cup of water, please. In Yehuda they call an arusa charufa. Says the Gemara, if we have a raya from a pasuk, then what do we need to tell me that in Yehuda they call it that way? The Yehuda v'ayid l'krad, do we have to have a second reason if we have a pasuk? So the Gemara says, you're right. Scratch that, thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Ela hachi kama. Scratch the pasuk. Ha'omer charufa b'Yehuda, not in the whole world. But if you say, Hariat Charufasi in Yehuda, there Mekadesh. Shekain be Yehuda, because in Yehuda, Karin Larusa Charufa. Now, the Gemara wants to know, in the case of Miyuchedesli, B'may askinan, Ilayma b'she'ein medabri ma al iskei gita v'kedusha. If they weren't talking about marriage, So then, no yada. How do you know that miyuchedesli means marriage? Maybe it means that he's giving her a job. You're the one. You're getting the office position. You're getting the CEO job. Mi yada my kamala. It was talking about marriage. If they were talking about marriage, he doesn't have to say anything. Even if he just gives her a ring and is talking about marriage, she's already Mekudeshes. If he was talking about divorce or Kiddushin, and gives it a get or a ring, and he doesn't elaborate, Rabbi Yossi says it's enough. Rabbi Yehuda she has to say Hariyat Mekudeshesli. But we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi. We paskin like Rabbi Yossi. So why do you have to say Miyuchedes and Miyuedes? If you already were talking about Kiddushin, then even without it, it's good, since we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Says the Gemara, this is where the rule less is more applies. Amrei la'olam b'medabri ma'al iskei gita v'kudesha. V'ida yav la v'shasik, if he gave her the ring and he was quiet, hachanami. But hachav b'mayaskinan the yav la v'amala b'hani lishna, he said miyuchedes and miyuedes. V'achik kamaboyle, hani lishna l'kedushe kamala, do they imply kedushin? Oidom l'malacha kamala, or maybe it means you got the job. So therefore, in this case, less is more. If he wouldn't have said anything, it would be assumed Kiddushin. But when he adds these terms, we're not sure. Teku, Tishbi, Yataretz, Kushas, Yubois. Now, Gufa. If it was talking to her about divorce or about Kiddushin, and he didn't say anything, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yossi says it's enough. Rabbi Yehuda mitzarach lefarish. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mashmul. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, when it says they were talking about it, v'ushasukin ba'oisa inyan, where they're still talking about it before he gives the ring or before he gives the get. V'chein Amar Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi Yosha v'ushasukin ba'oisa inyan. However, not everybody agrees with that. Kitanoi, it's really dependent on a machlokes tanoi. Rabbi Yomi v'husha sukin ba'isa inyan, they have to be talking about the matter. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon Aimer, afal pi she'ena sukin ba'isa inyan. Even if they stop talking about get or kedushin, says the Gemara, if they stop talking about it, then how do you know what the money was given for? V'ida lava sukin ba'isa inyan mino yada mai kamala. Then we don't know what the money was given for. Amar Abaya me'inyan le'inyan ba'isa inyan. They stopped actually talking about Kiddushin, but they were involved in something to do with Kiddushin. So how much of a nedunya dowry do you have? How much real estate are you bringing in? So one holds that that's enough. Even if they're not speaking Ba'isa Inyan, but Inyan Inyan Ba'isa Inyan, that's enough. Amr Abhuna Mishmul Alach Rabbi Yossi. That if they're speaking about Kiddushin and then he gives the money, that's enough, and you don't have to say Hariyat Mekudeshesli. Amalei Rav Yemel Rav Ashi Ve'el Adam Rav Yehuda Mishmul. This is a rule that nobody should be a Masada Kiddushin or do a get unless they know the halachas well. Because it's highly combustible. You make a mistake, you could cause mamzeris. So, Kol she'eni yodeh b'tiv gittin v'kiddushin, whoever doesn't know the nature of get and kiddushin, lo yeh lo esek ima. They shouldn't have anything to do with it. Does that mean even if they don't know that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that when he's talking about kiddushin and he gives the ring, that's enough? Even if he doesn't know this din of Rav Huda Shmuel, yes, even if you don't know this din, you shouldn't have anything to do with Kiddushin or Gittin. Now, the Chen Begerishin, likewise by divorce, Nasan Lagita, he gives her the get, for Amala Hariat Meshulachas, you are sent away, Hariat Megureshes, you are divorced, Hariat Materis Kol Adam, Harihi Megureshes. Now, says the Gemara, Pshita, Nasan lagita, if he gives her the get, va'amala le'ishtai, and he says to his wife, Hari'at bas chayrin, you are a free woman. Now that doesn't imply a divorce. She's a free woman even when she's married. So the Gemara says, if he said that, as we turn to Vav Amabez, lo yamav v'lo klum. That's nothing. Now Rashi learns that in the get it said Hariat bas chayr. Amala l'shivchasai, if he tells his maidservant, Hariat muteres l'kol adam, you could marry anybody. Lo yamav v'lo klum. Again, that's not a language of freedom from emancipation, because he has to free her from slavery. Amala l'ishtai, if he tells his wife, Hariat la'atzmecha, you are to yourself. Mao. What's the din then? Is she divorced, or does it mean that he's telling her she doesn't have to do any work? Mi aminu l'lacha kamala, she doesn't have to do any work. Oidoma legamrei kamala. So the Gemara will prove that Hariat la'atzmecha is a good lashon of divorce. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi, Tojma, the Tanya Gufay shall get shikhr. The essence of a writ of emancipation for a slave is Hari'ata ben chayrin, you are free, or Hari'ata la'atzmecha, you are for yourself. Now says the Gemara Kal v'chaymer, Hashdo ma evet kanani dekani leila gufay, whose body is acquired. Ki amalei Hari'ata la'atzmecha legamrei kamalei, it means you're on your own entirely. Isha delay kani le guf, he doesn't own his wife's body. Like kol shekain, that when he says Hariat la'atzmecha, she's completely freed, and it's a good get. Now the Gemara declares another language. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi. Ravina says to Ravashi, Amala avdai, he tells his servant, Ainli asek bach, I have no business with you at all. My, does that mean just that he can't make him work? Or does that mean that the slave is free? Mi amrinan ainli asek bach legamrei kamra, I have no business with you at all, completely, you're free. I'm not going to make you work anymore. But he still could get slaves, he could have, he still owes him that the children that he has belongs to him. Amalei Rav Nachman l'Ravashi. So Rav Nachman said to Ravashi, V'imrei loi Rav Chanim michuzal l'Ravashi, Tajma hamoicher avdei loivid kechavim. Now remember, we said this is a no-no. If you have a slave, Tony, you cannot sell him to a guy, because Eved Kanani has mitzvahs like a woman. We learn out of Gzeir Shav Allah La Meisha that an Eved Kanani has mitzvahs like a woman. So when you sell him to a guy, you are being mafkia him from mitzvahs. So therefore, if you sell your slave to a guy, he goes free. And the halacha is that you have to redeem him up to 10 times his value, and then he goes free. However, for him to be able to marry a Beis Yaakov girl, v'tzarech get shikhr min Rabbi Rishon, you have to write him a writ of emancipation. Amar Reb Shimon Gamliel, Bamed Amurim, you have to write him a writ of emancipation. That shaloi kosav alav oinai. That's if you didn't give him a document of exoneration. Al kosav alav oinai, but if you wrote him a document of exoneration, zeu shichrura, that serves as a writ of emancipation. Now, hechi dami unai, what's a writ of exoneration? Where you sell Tony to the guy and you write to him, Amrav Sheshes, the cost of like Kishetibrach Mimenu, when you flee the guy, Ainli Eisekbach, I have no further business. So you see that the term Ainli Eisekbach means complete freedom. Now we have a little piece of very technical Gemara. Here, Chatzkel gave a loan to Sarah of $1,000. Now he says, Sarah, Hari'at mekudeshes li, you are betrothed to me by the fact that I'm forgiving the loan. You don't have to pay me the $1,000. Now, at first glance, it sounds that should be good. He's giving her $1,000. But it's no good. Because the din of ki yikach ish isha is he has to give her something now. The $1,000 that he gave her was loitzah, was to be spent. So right now he's not giving her anything now, and therefore it's not a good kiddushin. Let's see it inside. Amar Abaya, hamekadesh b'milva. If somebody's mekadesh a woman by forgiving a debt, eina mekudeshes. She's not mekudeshes. Rashi says, if you look at eina mekudeshes, Rashi says the kicha mistega Ephron gamrinon. We learn out kicha from what Avram did with Ephraim. The Yov midei b'shas kiddushin. So just like Avram gave Ephraim the 400 shekel at that time, so he has to give her money at the time of the kiddushin. Or milva loitzanin, the money that he gave her as a loan was meant to be spent. V'kvar hein shelo, it was already hers. Umas acherim hi chayeves lei. She owes him other money. And therefore, he didn't give her anything now. He has to give her something now. However, b'hanaas milva, if he says for the benefit of a debt, that's mikudeshes. But v'asur lasis kain, you're not allowed to do that mipnei haramas ribis, because it's an issa d'rabbanan that it looks like you're trying to get around ribis. So the Gemara right away asks, could you define what does it mean that he wants to be mekadesh her with the hana of a milva? Hi hanaas milva heichidami. Ilema, if what he made up with her is, I'm giving you $4,000 and you have to pay me $5,000. And he's meichel the extra $1,000. Ilema the askafa the amala arba b'chamisha. I gave you a loan of 4 and you have to pay me 5. And now he's meichel the extra 1,000. Says the Gemara, first of all, haribis malyasi. If he gave her a loan of 4 and wanted back 5, that's pure ribis. V'oid haina milva. Again, if he just meichel the extra 1,000, he didn't give her anything. He didn't give her anything now. Says the Gemara, leitzricha de arvich la zimna. Oh, what happened is the debt was due after 30 days. And now it's 30 days. And he says, you should be mekudeshes that I'm extending it for another 15 days. Extending it for another 15 days, so there now he's giving her something new. Because now he's giving her the money for another 15 days. So he's giving something fresh. But she's getting the benefit of being mekudeshes by him waiting to be paid an extra 15 days. That looks like ribis. It's not real ribis because it wasn't made up at the time of the loan, but it is haramas ribis. Now the next halacha, you shouldn't get confused. The next halacha is simple. We know that matana al manas lahazer is a good matana. And we know that by lulav and esrog, that I could give you a lulav and say, it's yours on the condition that you return it to me. So when you shake the lulav, it's lekachtem lochem, it's yours, as long as you return it to me. If you don't return it to me, you're not yaitz in the mitzvah. So says the Gemara, it sounds confusing, but we're going to correct it in a minute. Here's $100 on the condition that you return it to me. By a sale, you don't acquire it with that temporary giving of the 100. By a woman, if you say, here's the ring on the condition you return it to me, she's not mekudeshes. If he says to the kohen, here's the 5 slum on the condition you give it back to me, the child is not redeemed. But by truma, if you say to the kohen, here's the truma on the condition that you give it back to me, and of course you can't use it because you're Yisrael, but you could sell it to another Kayin, Yotze Yedei Yasina. However, the Asur Lasses came, the Kayin is not allowed to agree to it, because it looks like he's doing that in order to curry favor with you, that you should give him the rest of your truma. It looks like a kohen that helps in the threshing floor. He's an ambulance chaser. He's helping in order that it should get the truma. Here too, it looks like he agrees with this in order that you should give him the rest of your truma. But the Gemara says, I don't understand. That it's good if you say, here's a gift on the condition that you return it to me. Then it should be good by Kiddushin, Pidyon Aben, and Mecher also. Then Afilu Kulu Nami, it should be good by all the other ones. That's not good, then it shouldn't even be good by Truma. Afilu Truma Nami Loi. And furthermore, you can't say Rava holds that it's no good. That a gift on the condition that you get it back is a good gift. Da'ama Rava, here's this esrig, Amanasha Tarziruli, on the condition that you return it to me after Yotze the mitzvah. Not Lovechzira, if you take it, do the mitzvah and return it, Yotze. Vimla, but if you never return it, then you didn't fulfill the condition, then lo Yotze. But you see, if you return it, it's good. So you see, Matana Manas Lahazer is a good Matana. El Amar Ravashi, as I said, we're going to amend it. Bikulu Kani. If he says, here's the money on the condition, you return it to me, he could buy karka with that money. He could be Mekadosh and Isha. He could do a Pidyon Aben. Now, except for being Mekadosh and Isha. It doesn't work by an Isha. If he says, here's this ring, Hariyat Mekadeshli, with this ring, on the condition that you return it to me, Levar Mi Isha. Why? Because Shema Yomru, we're going to be guys like the gears of the Rambam here, Shema Yomru Isha Niknas B'Chalipin. Maybe you'll say that a woman could be acquired with giving a symbolic handkerchief and acquire with Chalipin. Now what does this have to do? Remember we said Chalipin doesn't work because the symbolic item of Chalipin could even be less than a pruta, and a woman doesn't give herself over for less than a pruta. But why would this be confused with a pruta? The answer is, by Chalipin, you usually return the symbolic article, like we do by the Rav. The Rav takes his yarmulke by Mechiras Chametz and says, take this and you empower me to sell your chametz. And then you give the Rav back the yarmulke. By Chalipin, you usually give back the item. By a chasana. Right? Rav Moshe took a pen and said, here's this pen, and in lieu of this pen, you're being mekabel all the shibudim of the ksuva. And then you give Rav Moshe back the pen. So, since by Chalipin, you give it back, if we're going to say Matana Al-Manas Lahavza works by Kiddushin, where you give it back, then they'll come to say Chalipin also works by Kiddushin. So therefore, that's why Matana Al-Manas Lahavza doesn't work by an Isha. Amalei Rafuna Ma'abrei Rav Nechemia Rav Ashi, Hachi Amina Mishmei de Rava Kavasek. You're right. This is the correct version, so they say in the name of Rava like you, that in all these cases, Matana Manas Lahavza works by a Mecher, by Pidyon Aben, by Truma, except not by Isha. Wow. 58 minutes, 2 blot, Rabbi Yisai. What a good deal. As now we're going to learn the Mishnah Yomis, and Rabbi Yisai, just remember, this week we're going to try to start at 8:15. 8:15 this week. Let's try to start the shir. We're getting a little bit earlier.